So after seeing this music video for the first time, I may or may not have stayed up all night. Or maybe that was the caffeine. Anyway, so when I heard that New Jeans was going to sing the song this year, I was pretty excited because, I like New Jeans. But when I heard Deft was going to be the star of the music video, it was like, ooh, this is going to be so good. I don't know, just watching this video was such an emotional experience for me. It was so moving. I just felt like crying, and all the same emotions from when he won the Summoners Cup last year just came back, except maybe better. I think Riot Games always takes care of the animations being amazing, as well as the music being amazing in this video. But this time the storytelling was especially good, and as like a longtime Deft fan, it just really hit me. I just wanted to tell everyone about this, except I don't really have anyone I know who likes Deft as much as me, so I decided to make a video about it. Until I realized tons of other people have already broken down the entire video, which made me feel discouraged, but stay with me here. I think I have a couple things to say that some people who are just reporting the facts are not going to be able to add in. So I'm going to see what I can share with you guys as a Deft fan. And I hate how content is such a race. Dplus Kia actually held a premiere showing at Lowell Park in Seoul in Korea, and there was a draw for fans to come. I heard some fans even flew in from China and everything, which is amazing, and it was just filled with people watching this video with him for the first time, and I think that was so special, and I'm so proud of him. Okay, so we're just going to go through the video here, and I'm going to try to point out all the references that I can see, and also a couple of movie techniques that I just really like. And I may or may not ramble a little bit about my personal journey being his fan, but I'll try to keep that to a minimum. So we're going to start off with Deft going to school. It's in the winter, it's in the snow. In this scene, we can obviously see he's taking the corner seat in the back of the classroom, and there's some fun stuff in the background, we've got cleaning duty, Rujux on the board. We also have their cabinets or cubbies back here. And if you zoom in, you can actually read the names a little bit. This one says Kim Hyuk-gyu, which is Deft's name, and this one says Lee Sang-hyuk, which is Faker's name. And then we see in the wider shot that this here is Faker. And I love this shot just because the way the window is just flooding in the light. It shows that Deft is still the star of the story right here, which I just love. One of the other cool things in this classroom up here is that if you look closely, this says 중요한 건 꺾이지 않는 마음, which is Deft's little slogan that came out of 2022. So I love these little Easter eggs. So we see Faker talking to another student here, and so Faker and Deft are in the same school. They were technically. A lot of people throw around that, two of the best players or two of the longest playing players, at least in LCK, came out of the same high school. And yeah, it's true, but actually this wouldn't have played out because they weren't in the same class. So let me just read you this little excerpt from Deft's Korean wiki page. So it says, Deft was in the same year as Faker at Mapo High School. However, during their school days, they weren't even acquaintances. In a Hanwha segment video, Deft explained that they simply weren't in the same class, which, just to explain, in Korea, kids stay put and teachers move classes, so you're always with the same group all day long at school. Deft goes on to explain that in the first year of high school, or 10th grade, Faker was already kind of known at school for being good at League, whereas Deft didn't become good at League until the end of 10th grade, when he suddenly dropped out and went pro. So since they weren't in the same class, and Faker was known for League, but he wasn't yet, and both of them kind of have quieter personalities, he just said, yeah, we didn't meet at school because they only went to that school for 1 year because they both dropped out to go pro. But it's a funny coincidence that they were at the same school. And so regardless, I think this is a great element to the story anyways because it already depicts how Faker's a little bit ahead of Deft. Also, I love how it just looks like a typical Korean classroom. All right, let's keep going. So talking, he's kind of alone in the corner, and then boom, we're in a game. So he spins and he transforms into Ezreal, and he's fighting the blue buff. And I think the fun reason they make him fight the blue buff is because his first big team was called MVP Blue. And so I guess that's a cool reference to the blue buff. So he hits the True Shot Barrage, defeats the blue buff, but then he looks to his side and whoa, I love that turn. There's a Baron. So he sees the Baron. Whoa, bigger monster. And then there's someone else. It's Faker. And he's jumping from rock to rock. He's being awesome, slashing the Baron. And this is Faker as Zed. And remember, we're right now in 2013. So Faker's shown defeating the Baron. Bang! Lands with the perfect ninja pose. There's like a cool little T1 thingy in the background, which shows that Faker is already on SKT Telecom T1. And so I just wanted to pause a minute to explain. Throughout the video, I'm going to talk about why the storyboarders of this video chose the champions they did for the people they did, as well as why did the people who show up in this video show up. So obviously Faker is in this video because his, I guess, destiny with Deft began in high school, which is really interesting. And Deft's first appearance as Ezreal, even though now in present day I would say he's completely proficient in every ADC and he doesn't have that many holes. Back then that was not true. At the very beginning, when people would compare him to Imp, who was the other big AD at the time, they would say Imp would play the auto attackers and Deft would play the skill shots because Deft was really good at landing as well as dodging skill shots. So I think that's one of the reasons they used Ezreal for this beginning section, because that's a champion he would have played really well back then, and it's still something he plays like just so well today. And then for Faker, the reason that he's dressed as Zed in this first scene is because in 2013, I would say two things happened. First of all, Faker won the World Championship in 2013 already, and one of the champions he used in the final series was Zed. The other big callback being Faker's famous duel with Ryu, where he beats him in a Zed 1v1. And that was also in 2013 leading up to Worlds. So I think that's a really apt choice for Faker here. Alright, so let's keep going. Deft just saw Faker killed Baron. Whoa! And then he's back out of the game. So we have like kind of the in-game parts and the out-of-game parts. So the second out-of-game part is in Deft's room. And I think there's like a cool couple of Easter eggs here. There's some League of Legends paraphernalia on the shelf. There's a poster on the wall. I'm really curious what's in these pictures, like if it's anything, like if anyone can identify these shadows, let me know. Like I want to find out what these are. There's also an Alpaca doll on the bed, and for anyone who's unaware, Deft's most famous nickname is Alpaca because he kind of looks like one. And the reason the Alpaca is wearing sunglasses, just the same as it is in the DRX skins and stuff, is actually because of this video, which every single fan of Deft would know. And if you didn't, now you do. And just on a side note, Dplus Kia has made merch for Worlds this year, and it's this little alpaca doll wearing a Deft jersey, and it's so cute. So he feels a little defeated, he pulls back on his headphones and keeps playing. And we see the other side of his room, there's a couple things here as well. There's again posters on the wall. We've got Jinx, we've got Vi. Like I said, although I think Deft plays every single champion, his most iconic one, I guess, like it's a signature pick. It's not his best pick or his most famous pick. It's just his signature pick is Jinx. So I think that like speaks to this poster. There's also a little Jinx rocket here, which is cute. And up here, there's a poster for the World Championship, which is 2013. This monitor is totally anachronistic. I don't know why anyone would have such a monitor in 2013, but it's obvious they've put like an old version of League of Legends on the screen, like the old shapes and icons and stuff. I was really curious, like, you know, does the screen actually show his name and stuff? So I tried to change the brightness to see what the word said. There's definitely has destroyed an enemy turret, but beyond that, I can't really make out the IDs. I'm going to assume it is not actually of Deft just because it's already in English, but if anyone can read these or identify these, let me know. I'm so curious. So with the passage of time out the windows, you can see he's spent all night gaming. We've got this really nice little dolly zoom, which I just love. I love that. And then we cut to Deft's first Worlds. And this is like a theme throughout the rest of the video that I just want to mention now. I love that the crowd is depicted in the background of every scene like this because it shows that Worlds is more than just the players in the competition. It's the audience, it's the fans, the fact that someone's there to witness the history that's in front of them that's happening. And I just love that that's consistent throughout the video. Okay, already getting too emotional. Back to it. So this is Deft's first Worlds. He's on Samsung Blue, which used to be MVP Blue, now Samsung Blue, and he's playing in the semifinals against Samsung White, which is like the sister team that they had beat a lot up until then. And then we go into the game for the fight scene. So we see Deft as Lucian and approaching his pawn as Jace. And this is really fun because you got like the hammer knockback, and then we got the shock blast, and then whoa, boom, we got the hammer, and he's back out to the stadium, which is I just love this shot. It makes you feel it's so from above. Like, it makes you feel like you're getting hammered as well. And it's just amazing. And so you'll ask, why is Pawn playing Jace? Why is Deft playing Lucian? This is because this was the champions they were playing in Game 2 of this series. And Pawn, along with the rest of the team, just hard carried on Jace. And then why Pawn? And it's because while Pawn wasn't Deft's teammate in 2014, from 2015 on, he was Deft's mid laner for many years. I think all the way till 2019, only not playing when he was subbed out for Scout on EDG and like when he had some injuries or something like that. So Pawn and Deft played together for a long time after that. I read that, Deft being a AD carry, you'd think that maybe the teammate he's played with the longest is a support, but no, it's Pawn. He's played with Pawn for the longest out of all his teammates he's ever played with. So I think that's a great reason to include Pawn in this scene. But we're back in 2014 before all that happened. So we've got Pawn defeating him on Jace, just slamming him out of existence, back into the stadium. He's like, whoa, okay, that hurt. I love that knockback, just kind of continuing into the chair in real life. Love that. Okay, and then we get this, get a nice little spin transition with the chair. Love that. And then we get this image of the next year at Worlds, which is Deft and Meiko from EDG. So Deft is now playing for the LPL in China, and this is where I joined. So I started watching League in 2015, and this is when I first knew about Deft, and consequently Deft and Meiko. So that was like a pair of names that went together in my mind, and this jacket is just so memorable to me. It just stands out in my mind. So this is just a great image. So if we keep playing, and we just got another monitor transition. We're spinning this way. I just love this. Like, as someone who has spent a lot of time staring at Deft's face, this is like totally Deft's face shape. Like, I don't know. It's completely Deft. Even here too. Like, look at that. This is Deft's face. Meiko looks amazing too. Like, I don't know. It's so nice looking. Okay. Ooh, and then we got the Rush Lantern transition with the light. Boom. Nice. And then we're at this white shot. So I love that we've got this perpetual spinning motion because it starts with him spinning or reeling from the Jace hammer, and then we spin into the next year, spin into the game, spin into this battle, and like the fact that you spin into the game on a close-up and you're looking at their faces, you can't see much, and then you get to the wide shot. It's more suspenseful than establishing the wide shot and then going in. Going from in to out, I think, is a great choice for this section of the story. So, if we keep going a little bit, we have, the next character appears. It is Rekkles from Fnatic, and he's got 2 shurikens, which is canon. And so why these champions and these people? Well, they played close to these champions in Game 1 of the series. Meiko did play Thresh, Rekkles did play Kennen, but Deft was not playing Sivir. He was playing Jace. The only reason I think they didn't put him as Jace here is just because Jace has already been used for Pawn. So they just substituted in Sivir, which was meta at the time, and Deft was playing a lot, and he was really good at it. So I think it makes sense to not have repeats here. And then why the people? So Meiko obviously is his lane partner. I think that makes sense as like one of his closest teammates on EDG at the time. And then Rekkles, actually, it's because Deft and Rekkles were kind of friends. So I'm just gonna rewind a little bit here to Rekkles just because this is personal anecdote time, but the person who introduced me to Deft was Rekkles, because when Rekkles and Deft were going to face off in this quarterfinals match at Worlds, the Worlds team made a video. It was of Rekkles and Deft because they wanted to introduce their little friendship where they would exchange like tips for AD and stuff like that. Up to that point, I had only been following the NALCS and the EULCS, and that's how I knew about Rekkles. And then Deft was the first Korean player that I was really introduced to. And not sure what it was, but like that was the point from which I knew Deft and decided to be his fan, and that's my personal little aside. But back to the story. So we've got this lightning storm. It knocks him back all the way in his chair this time, and he's got some spinning again. And as we go to the next scene, we see that it's actually a little bit of a time lapse. It's a pretty long time lapse of about 5 years because it goes from 2015 all the way to 2020, and that skips quite a few bits of his career, right? So basically, to recap, Deft has already been to 2014, he got to semifinals, 2015 he got to quarterfinals, and Deft, after those first 2, is going to qualify 6 more times for Worlds, including this year, 2023. In 2016, he qualifies with EDG again, makes it to the quarterfinals, but loses to Rox Tigers, who are going to win the tournament. In 2017, he leaves China, goes back to Korea, joins KT, which is supposed to be the super team that's going to win everything. It's got all the best players on it, and they choke and they don't even make it to Worlds. So it's kind of like, woo, that super team didn't make Worlds. But they stick with it a little bit. Next year, 2018, they make it back to Worlds. Again, Deft is stymied in the quarters against IG, who are also going to win that year. In 2019, he moves to Kingzone Dragon X, and he does not make Worlds that year. And Kingzone Dragon X changes to DRX by 2020, which is where this video picks up. And I think, although Deft did miss Worlds a couple times, he has made Worlds 8 years in his 10-year career. And I want to point out that he's made Worlds on 6 different teams. So I think it really goes to show the common factor between all of that is him, and I think it really speaks to like what kind of player he is, how consistent he is, and how important he is to his team. So we're at 2020 now. He's on DRX. After the end of 2019, everyone left Kingzone Dragon X, and everyone thought Deft would too. But he actually came back on, and they brought in a bunch of new young players. Doran, relatively new. Chobi, relatively new. Pyoshik and Karya, they're literally rookies. They're call-ups, and they're all much younger than him. And I think this is a great turning point for him in his career because Deft at this point is now the oldest, which he has always been the youngest in his teams. And I can't explain how much that like fans of Deft and fans of any of the other people on 2020 DRX love and cherish 2020 DRX in our hearts. Like, it's like the most precious thing. These 5 created a bond that was like family. They were so close to each other. Their friendship was so strong. The evidence of why that particular team's friendship was so special just continues to this day in how close the players still are to each other. Like, obviously, Doran and Chobi, whenever Deft talks to any of these 4, especially Deft and Karya, obviously, Deft names Karya as well as Rascal as his 2 best friends in LCK. And so yeah, this team is just really special, and it marks the first time Deft stepped up as leader and the oldest, and I think that's a great turning point. So, getting into it, we're at 2020 Worlds now, and as you may have noticed, this only focuses on Worlds because it's a Worlds video, so this is only about Deft's Worlds and maybe not the other aspects of his career. So we've got Deft here on Senna, Doran up here on Jax with the Lamppost, and here is Karya with the Braum Shield. And this is again at Worlds in the quarterfinals. And the opponent is none other than... Oh, I love that leap strike from Jax. This is Canyon on Graves. And their opponent is Damwon Gaming, who is, again, going to win this year. So Deft keeps losing in quarterfinals to the eventual winner of Worlds. It's a little bit crazy. But here's Doran with Jax, and he just... I'm sorry, this is amazing. He just whiffs. He just whiffs. Canyon's like, I'm out of there. All right. And then he has clear shot to take aim at Deft. So why are they playing these characters? Because this combination was actually played in game 2. Canyon played Graves, Doran played Jax, and then Deft played Senna. And why did they show Canyon as well as Doran? Because, well, Doran, obviously, teammate now, but Canyon would be his teammate this year in 2023, so I think that's a good reason to show him. It would be kind of interesting if they showed Beryl here. Alright, so Deft just took a huge grave shot, he's probably dead. And then we've got the next entrance, and this is none other than Showmaker. And he's got the Syndra balls. And someone's rushing in to the rescue. It's Karya. I love this like animation. It's like fast and then slow motion, and he turns back. This might be the last I see of you. No. I love that expression. It's amazing. And then Karya puts down his shield, takes the whole barrage, and dies. Ugh. This scene was not parallel to the game. So Showmaker did play Syndra in game 1, but Karya was playing Lulu. And Karya did play Braum in game 3, but Showmaker was playing Orianna. And I don't think there's any big scene in the series where Karya does something like this that saves Deft. But nevertheless, it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire video because one of my like weaknesses, like my favorite tropes in stories, whether it's like fiction or real life, is sacrifice. There's nothing that can hit me harder than the sacrifice a friend makes for their friend out of love. It's amazing. All right, so Carrier takes the big hit here, and I love if you watch this like in regular motion, like the screen kind of like shakes. Yeah, it's really like anime right there. How dare you! He gets up to take a shot, but boom. And yeah, representing their defeat in the quarters again. So this section of the video, I think is like, it's the perfect time to put this here. The lyrics that are sung at this moment are just perfect as well, because they're all about Deft. It says, "Can anyone read this underdog story? Help me raise this heart unbreakable," which is obviously a small nod to the unbreakable heart quote, "Kokiji 않은 마음," that was attributed to Deft during this Worlds. But I think just showing Deft at his absolute lowest here is so accurate, because this is when he was at his lowest after the 2020 season. It was in the middle of the season in 2020 when he started getting like herniated disc symptoms. He had gone to so many worlds at this point, failed so many times, and now his like literal health was preventing him from playing, and he wasn't sure if he could continue. And that's something he has like said in interviews in 2023. Like, I used to ignore the hate comments, but then I started wondering if the hate comments are true, that I was never going to achieve anything, I was never going to win. I think he's admitted that this was the time when he was most seriously considering quitting. So it's really accurate to show this as his lowest point. Luckily, he does not quit. He plays in 2021 on Hanwha, again with a bunch of like really fresher players slash lower tier players. They barely make it to Worlds, but in perfect ironic style, they make it to quarterfinals, and Deft is eliminated again, this time to T1, who doesn't win this year, but does have Keria, who is, facing it off against him and Chovy on Hanwha. So that's definitely bittersweet there. But that part isn't in this video, which is why I'm going to just skip it. And so we see him falling in the depths. I love the mirror piece there. This might be the bottom. There's tears, there's pain, reaching up for the light. And this is 2022 DRX. I still love how you can just make out that this is his face. Like, it's totally his face. So I believe we've got Zeka, Pioshik, Beryl, and Kingen. And they pull him up for one more fight. We're going to Worlds again. And I love how they're coming up from the bottom. Their gaze is looking upwards. I think after they won this year, everyone found out about how far down they were before they started rising all the way to the top. But I love the upwards looking, and even here, the upwards camera tilt to look upwards, and all the way on top there is none other than Meiko. And that's Deft's old teammate from, 2015, 2016. And I just love how, like, there's a tie back here, right? It's a circle back to that Thresh scene. And that's, like, why they chose Meiko here, because Meiko is the teammate that he faces again, as well as Scout, but especially Meiko. They meet in the quarterfinals again, the place where Deft has stumbled countless times. Most of the time he's lost 0-3. And Meiko right here is the reigning world champion. This is him as Renata Glosk, and he's saying, "Welcome to my house. This is where I reign currently. I'm currently the reigning champion. You've got to come get me." And Deft says, "Sure I will." He pulls out his Draven blades. And from here on out, I think it's pretty straightforward. Most people know the more recent story of last year's championship, so there aren't as many like niche references here. But Deft pulls out Draven, which is what happened in Game 3. So they're down 0-2. This is the very bottom. They're about to get eliminated again. It's do or die. Deft plays Draven against Meiko's Renata. I love this animation. He's going upwards, jumping up and up and up. And the spinning blades is something that actually happens. He kills Meiko very early on in laning phase. And of course you're going to kill your past teammates in games if you meet them. But in terms of a dramatic storyline, dude, just make it into a dramatic storyline for me. That's all I want. Alright, so EDG is defeated. Next game is Varus versus, this is Doran on Renekton. Remember little Jax guy before who totally whiffed? This is him now. So he's totally big. And I think this represents a number of things as well. First of all, This is game 4 of the series. Doran got ahead, got pretty fed on Renekton, so being fed pretty big, makes sense. But I think it also represents that Genji was on top. They were the winners of Summer in the LCK, and DRX was nowhere near them. So I think that also shows like the power discrepancy, and I just love the balance of the weapons here and how this is staged. Next fight, now he's got the Caitlyn sniper gun. He meets none other than Keria, who arguably is his best friend, his very best friend. He has to knock out for the win. And I love this close-up as well. It's amazing. And Keria's playing Karma. This is game 5. It's all tied in the finals. Keria cornered, and then suddenly, bang, from behind. It's Faker as Victor. And this is great because, again, it's a callback to the very beginning of the video, where it starts with Faker and Deft, it ends with Faker and Deft, and I just love that. Obviously, for this World's Finals, the broadcast narrative and all the storylines that the casters talked about was all just Faker Deft, Faker Deft. I can confidently say, at least my opinion, even as a Deft fan, this was not about Deft at all. Like, this series was not about Deft. He didn't have any, like, big moments, but, that doesn't serve our narrative here in this music video. So, of course, we're just going to make this about Deft. But I just wanted to mention that, in my opinion, this series was not actually about Deft in real life. Anyways, Victor comes in with Victor to save Keria. Bang! Oof. And then maybe Deft is cornered now. And who else but... boom! The rest of his team comes in to save him. And I love that, like, I think this is Bard, because Barrel's Bard in this game, which he famously, or maybe not so famously, the person who suggested the Bard pick in game 5 to win it all was Deft. Deft was the one who's like, Barrel, you want to play Bard? And Barrel was like, okay. And then Deft was like, let's go. But anyway, so I love that because that wasn't just Barrel's moment, that was also Deft's moment. And the rest of his team shows up. I love that. When you're cornered, your teammate comes to save you. When I'm cornered, my teammate comes to save me. I love how each of these guys have their own moment here. Absolutely, Pyoshik with the Hecarim in game 5. He just went crazy. He's got his own slice there. Kingan's got this awesome Aatrox slice, which obviously Kingan was the reason they won game 4. And then Azir summons a Sandstorm. I love the slide with Deft and the scopes coming up. Take an aim. Bang! We got ace in the hole. And no way! And he's won. And he hugs his teammates. And again, the audience is in the background. This shot is amazing too. He looks upwards this way. And this is not something that actually happened or anything. But I'm curious what you guys' interpretation for this is, because the next shot, if we look, it does not have any connection with this eye gaze, right? If you have an eye gaze, usually you have to follow it in a movie, but there's nothing here. So it just cuts to them raising the cup. It doesn't necessarily have to do with this direction. I don't think he's looking at the cup here, so I think he's just kind of looking up. And I wonder what your interpretation of that is. With the song being God's, is he looking to a god? Or is he thanking God? Or is he's not looking at anything, he's just thinking about himself and how he's finally made it. I think that could also be a great interpretation, but let me know what you think. Well, what does this shot mean? Okay, so we raise the cup, and he's won. And call the curtain. So, that was super awesome. I think that's a great summary of Deft's Worlds appearances. I think this video, because it's too short, can't break down all the drama that went into their 2022 run, but it honors everything else. I think the one moment here I think they could have tried to work in somehow was the moment with the inhibitor against EDG. So, we got quite a bit of screen time here of him running with Draven. I get that it would be hard to pull out Ezreal again because that's what he was on, but I feel like the inhibitor moment where he was one hit away from killing the Nexus, couldn't do it, the inhibitor came back up, and they lost the game off of that. I think that was one of the most iconic moments that I've ever seen in League of Legends esports. I think it transcends all of Deft's history, as well as I think it even transcends Deft. first of all, it's just a legendary moment on its own. But then when you put it into context of like, this is game 2, Deft's about to be eliminated again, this could be his last year playing, the stakes are so high. So I think like any small reference to the inhibitor here just would have been amazing. Deft's Worlds 2023. He's coming in as the 4th seed this year on Dplus Kia, which used to be Damwon. He's playing with Showmaker as well as Canyon, who appeared in this video. His lane partner is Kellen. They have a sub Bible, and for top they have Kana, another of my favorite players. Overall, this team isn't expected to do as much as, say, Genji or KT are this year at Worlds. But it's very interesting that they've changed the format this year, so there's not like a fight for the play-ins for the 4th team. So I'm really excited to see if Deft can make the bracket again. But this will almost definitely be Deft's last year, regardless of how it goes. Before the end of 2022, he was already talking about like, oh, 2022 might be my last year because it's not going good. You know, he wasn't going to win the Worlds. He wasn't even going to go to Worlds. So he thought he was going to end 2022 and just that was going to be the end. But after he won, he's like, I need to do this again. So he came back for 2023. But this time, like, he's dropped so many hints that he's like almost definitely going to military next year. So this is probably the end of Deft's saga this year. So I'm really excited to cheer for him at Worlds. And I just can't wait for the whole thing. And this video is making me so excited and obviously really emotional for Deft and his career. I'm so lucky to have followed him for 8 years of it. And I hope this Worlds ends off on a good note for him. So, alright, I won't drag this on any longer. Let me know if you guys have any Deft related questions in the comments or any feedback or any other things you'd like to see from me. So, bye bye!